What is up, party people? I have been on hiatus for quite some time, and for a while I thought I had stopped making videos altogether. In the past, I tried creating content, and I even got some decent views on a few videos. However, it wasn't sustainable. I didn't really feel fulfilled, and it wasn't really. I don't know. It didn't feel like I was doing what I needed to be doing for this channel, for this creative endeavor. During this time, I wrote music, and I was working on a musical project called Tigerlo. Stay tuned on that because I will talk more about this later. Back in 2024, kind of back when I was talking about this stuff going on, I lost my job and my life kind of completely turned upside down in the beginning of the year. I had a good year in 2023. I was pretty comfortable. I was working on music. I was working, I was making bank. I was working on the God, kind of coming up with the creative stuff for the Godzilla game idea that I had. I'll talk more about that later too. And then 2024 hits and it's like, boom, lose your job, get fucked. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And, you know, I got pretty depressed for a while. To be honest, I'm glad I came out on the other side better for it because it could have been worse. And as time goes on, I begin to see more and more of the errors of my old ways when it came to making content. My entire time as a content creator back then was spent simply making content to have content because that's what you do. You're a content machine. Everyone makes content. That's what you do, right? You're a creator. You create. The problem was that there was barely any inspiration behind the content. It's kind of the secret sauce for being creative, for creating things, is you're inspired, right? That's what made Star Wars so great. George Lucas was inspired by Dune. Besides a couple of videos I made, ironically enough, about Dune and Godzilla, everything I did was just filler. Some of this stuff was kind of cool. I like stickers. I would make videos showing the stickers I got. I made videos about the awesome orange amps that I got, but a lot of it was just filler. Like, oh, like here's a riff. Like I'm gonna play this riff, and then I'm gonna have like a clickbaity. It was very clickbaity, right? In hindsight, rather than spending time making videos about stuff that didn't really do anything, I should have been making videos about stuff that got me fired up and happy to be alive on planet Earth. Which in a way it was because I was playing guitar and I like playing guitar, but you know what I mean. I began to realize that this was no way to exist as an artist, as a creative person, as a creator. In a lot of ways, making videos for your YouTube channel is no different than songwriting. If you create something from love and inspiration, the authenticity of the creation will shine through and people will resonate with that. I want you to keep in mind that as I talk, a lot of things that I say are going to have nuance to them. And nuance is something that does not play nice with the algorithm. The algorithm overlords do not like whenever you have nuance, whenever you have to sit and really think about what someone's saying, if it's not binary code. It's really surprising that robots don't like it when you don't talk binary. As I began to ponder more and more on kind of where I was as a creator, this is back to 2024. I quickly realized what I was doing all wrong. Around the summer of 2024, I started to notice people were bringing nuance back into social media, specifically YouTube, and maybe it was happening before that. I'm not trying to say this is when it started. This is when I noticed it starting. YouTube back then was and is in many ways still dying, specifically in these niche sectors because everything is nicheified, right? Freaking look at the YouTube metal music scene. Yeah, it's kind of like Jared Dines is making stuff again now, but there was like a big implosion, like Nick Nocturnal stuff, like all these guys stopped making music because they were making slop. You know, Philion speaks of this. He says the word slop a lot, and it's a cool word. And it's an accurate word. It's very accurate. It was slop. You know, everyone was just making shit to make shit, reacting. Oh, it's the newest this, the newest that. Everyone was sucking Sleep Token's dick. Sleep Token fucking sucks. They're just doing it to make money. This is their job. They do that to make money. There's no love. It's corporatized, like the Lego movie Lord Business type shit. I hate it. Everything was getting oversaturated and creators were losing the plot. Very similar to the Ouroboros, the depiction of a snake eating itself. And while this at first discouraged me, after a bit of processing, you know, really letting it digest, it actually gave me hope. As the famous saying goes, when God closes his door, he opens up the window. You know, as this thought began to transform into a belief like poetry, I started to notice a new style of video being made, a kind of video style. It was like a breath of fresh air to someone who felt like they've been drowning for as long as they can remember. I began to see people making videos, not to get clicks, but to make the world a better place, just simply to make videos. They're making the world a better place, but they weren't making videos to get clicks. They're making videos to make good videos. That's what YouTube used to be. It used to be good videos. No one gave a rat's ass about the algorithm. Frankly, I wish I had started making these kind of videos sooner. Doing this very thing for a while would have benefited my channel, and I'd be in a better place than I am right now. But that's okay. Hindsight's 2020. We're in the decade of 2020 vision. And thankfully, this story doesn't end with me being a butthurt, a little, you know, shitlord. Let's fast forward to 2025. I spent the beginning of the year working on recording the guitar tracks for the first Tiger Lope album, and I was pleasantly surprised with how they turned out. I think it was like 13 weeks. So we recorded once a week on Fridays. It was like an all-day endeavor. We started in January, and then, yeah, like 13 weeks later. And we did like a song a day. We had a 10-song album, and song a day, with the exception of like 2 or 3 days being like a wash, like not really having anything keepable. And to be fair, those are like the first couple weeks. So, you know, we could really just chalk that up to cutting our teeth. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just learning as we went along. I will be discussing this album further in my upcoming videos, so be sure to stay tuned. My thoughts and ideas around content creation were still developing while I was doing this. I knew I wanted to make an album. I also knew I wanted to make kind of like a cool web series, cartoon show, if you will, of the album that would be in synchronicity with the album. You know, I want to do a trilogy. You know, just like I knew most of my life I wanted to be a guitar player. Started guitar when I was 7. 28 now, 21 years. I also knew I wanted to write stories, tell stories. You know, that's something I've always really liked. I've always really liked writing. I've already written a book, you know, so I like writing, you know, fiction and nonfiction, but I want to write stuff that really enables me to explore my creativity, you know, while kind of bringing together good energies, if you will, and I'll talk more about this later, good morals. I was blown away by the Dune movies when they came out. You know, that was big. Like, that awakened to something in me. I think it awakened something in a lot of people because they were really, really good movies coming out in the oversaturation. Coming in the era of the Marvel movies, which I never liked. I never really liked superheroes growing up. I thought Batman was cool. You know, Spider-Man, the original OG Spider-Man movies were awesome, of course, and Superman was alright. I thought Superman was kind of mid. I had like a really old cartoon of Superman that I got from like my great uncle Frank for Christmas one year, and I would watch it sometimes because I was homeschooled and we didn't have cable, so I had nothing to watch. And I remember it was so cheesy. Like, sometimes the words wouldn't match up with people's mouths, but I thought it was kind of cool. But yeah, never really huge superhero nerd, I liked Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Godzilla and dinosaurs. That was my shit. That was my jam. That was my fun zone. You know, and then in my 20s, you know, find out about Dune, throw Dune into the mix. I kind of saw bits and pieces of the Dune movies growing up. The oh my god, what's his name? This is gonna kill me. David Lynch. Fuck, I knew it started with a D. I was a bitch and I used Google search to look it up. I would have been able to figure that out. That's okay. But yeah, you know, I saw the David Lynch Dune movies, and they're kind of weird. You know, that's what a lot of people say about them. I mean, that's Lynch's kind of thing, is he makes stuff weird. I probably would appreciate it more if I watched it as an adult. But I don't want to. You know, as Christopher Walken says,
I don't want to.
Because I saw the new ones, and they're better objectively. We'll talk more about this later. How art is actually objective, and thinking it isn't is wrong. And when I watched the Dune movies, I fell in love with Star Wars all over again. Started playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, picked up the OG Star Wars Battlefront, picked up Knights of the Old Republic, and it's been a lot of fun. This almost childlike mental state reminded me of a simpler time. A time before social media, algorithms, and all this nonsense we find ourselves preoccupied with these days. Something was building inside of me, and I started pause, and I started to feel for the first time in a while hope. Hope for something better. Hope to chase my dreams. And hope that led to faith. Faith that I could do it. And then about a month ago, I was sitting on my ass doing nothing. You know, probably just playing video games. And I stumbled upon a YouTube channel called Izzy. This Izzy guy, he's cool. I like him. It blew me away seeing his stuff. If you haven't seen his channel yet, I've linked to it in the description. I highly recommend you give him a follow. Follow his Patreon. His Patreon is only like $5 a month, and he does free trials. He's a really cool guy. He's not one of these, oh, I'm going to sell you a course bullshit things. You know, he's found a way to marry talking about music, esoteric knowledge, and staying up to date on current events, which is really cool. All the while being authentic, speaking from the heart rather than trying to take advantage of the algorithm and generate views, clicks, and all that other nonsense. I mean, obviously, he's still doing things that the algorithm benefits, like getting you to comment, getting you to like, but you know what I mean. Like, you're not just making stuff to make stuff. This brings us to the present now. And while I was looking down at my laptop writing this, I've written most of this. You can tell when I'm going off script and when I'm not. Kind of like a certain Orange Man. I'm on script right now, and now I'm off script. I'm saying things behind closed doors you would never hear. It's really obvious. Shane Gillis speaks of this. I don't know what the future has in store for me, and it most likely will not be what I'm expecting it to be, and that's awesome. I think this outlook of welcoming the unknown is paramount to anyone embarking on the hero's journey, something we all must do to become the best version of ourselves. When watching Izzy's video, I felt a connection. Almost as if I was tapping into a shared consciousness, not a shared unconsciousness, like Jung talks about, a shared consciousness, something where if we have the same goal, if we share enough of the same vision, we are sharing consciousness in a way. We are on the same wavelength. We're on the same wavelength. What the fuck was that? We're on the same wavelength, dude. A shared brainwave, if you will. I believe that as creators, this should be the ultimate goal. Because you see, right now the world is a bitter place full of broken dreams and a bleak outlook towards the future. People are taking all the wrong pills. You know, they're taking the black pill, they're taking the blue pill, they're taking the Tide Pod pill. You know, they're straight up, yeah. We'll speak more of this later and why taking pills is not the move if you want to figure out what's going on. The internet has eroded our values and it has shaped the collective consciousness and unconsciousness as it speaks of this. And only through intentional, fully present acts can we course correct this. This isn't some feel-good story about how everybody should love everybody. We should all stand in a circle and sing Kumbaya. If that's what you thought I was building towards, newsflash, pal. I think I'm not going to be your cup of tea. I think a much more accurate representation would be this. Jesus tells us, "Do you suppose that I came to grant peace on earth? I tell you, no, but rather division." And he goes on to talk about how, mother and father, daughter and father and son, mother and daughter, brothers. The point is, divide. As he came to speak the truth. The truth divides. And we are living in the age of obfuscation. I can't even say that word right because my body knows it's so dumb that it exists. Obfuscation. We'll talk more about this later and who started that. But bringing in division with words is a much more accurate representation of what my channel will be moving forward. Things such as Sleep Token fucking sucks, or the majority of the metal music scene on YouTube. They're not really bringing anything to the table as original musicians. Like, they're not at what they're doing on this earth. Most of it will not be remembered 200-300 years from now, right? Bach got more famous after he died. Bach is and always will be a legend. If aliens come to this earth and they ask for like our best music, a lot of classical music is going to be in there. And Bach kind of was like the Led Zeppelin of classical music. Like how all the like Led Zeppelin came in the scene, and then like that just there's this huge tree of bands that were influenced by them. Aerosmith, Boston, Van Halen, Soundgarden, 11. If you haven't checked the band out called 11, check them out. But not Greta Van Fleet, because Greta Van Fleet don't bring anything original to the table. They are charlatans. They are very sex-centered, sex symbol-esque, pretty little boy charlatans. That's what they are. They're not that good.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Okay.
Okay?
Are you?
Absolutely.
And, this is the kind of stuff I'm going to be talking about, how Sleep Token fucking sucks, how Sabrina Carpenter is mid, how Beyonce didn't write a country album and got an award saying that she did. No thank you, Beyonce. Most of my life, I've been terrified of people disagreeing with what I have to say. Kind of grew up in the everybody love everybody age, and we got to find a way to be inclusive. And I hate it. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent, thinking about this and how it relates to the music world. Because look, if you're talking, let's just be nice to people. I get that. When it comes to music, there is such a thing as objectivity. I'm not going to be scared of talking about that anymore. I see other people talking about it. Freaking Shred Music, I think his name. Everyone knows who I'm talking about. The cool guy who wears sunglasses. He just, I'll link to his stuff in the description too. He just blew up talking about Sabrina Carpenter and how she's a fucking psyop and all this shit. And I loved it. I was like, dude, yeah, talk your shit, bro. Hell yeah. And there's this other channel on Instagram I found. She's awesome. I think her name starts with a J. I'm gonna link her too. Same thing. She's talking about how music is objective. So people are waking up. People are talking their talk, and they're walking the walk, and I love it. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent in my head pretending I'm being interviewed and getting hit with some gotcha journalism type questions. And for the first time in my life, I simply just don't care anymore. Benefits of getting older, I guess. It feels great. It feels freeing. It feels right. It feels tight. Pause. This is the frequency I want to tap into. This is the collective consciousness I want you to join me in growing and nurturing. I don't want 1 million subscribers. I want 100 subscribers on fire for changing this world for the better. Dismantling the malignant systems set in place by corporatocracy. The businessification of music has hollowed out and defiled what is one of the oldest and most sacred practices of our time. And it's time we as artists talked about it. I mean, really talked about it. I'm not talking record label bad, they take my money when song play on radio. I'm talking, the culture of participation trophies and business first has invaded the music space and infected it with its mind virus. And that's why we have people like Sleep Token. That's why we have people like Sabrina Carpenter. That's why we have people like Imagine Dragons. And we must exterminate these hosts, at least socially. We must exterminate them. We must shun them. We must ban them. We must call them out for what they are if we want to reclaim music. If you've seen the movie They Live, this can be seen simply as with the glasses off, everything looks the same. But when you put on the glasses of enlightenment, which can be seen through this collective consciousness, you see them for what they are. They're different. And not the good different, the bad different. I will talk more about this in my upcoming videos, as well as many of the themes and contents discussed today. Although I want to say, if you can't already tell what is coworker music, as we're calling it now, fucking Benson Boone, if that is able to make its way to you, and you don't pass the test of seeing what it is right away, this might just not be for you. I'm not saying you can't learn it, but that's some it factor type shit. Either you got it or you don't. I will talk more about this in my upcoming videos, as well as many of the themes and concepts discussed today. My album, Tigerlope, will illuminate these further, tying them all together through allegories of the hero's journey, as well as philosophical ideas such as stoicism and psychological content and concepts, such as the work of Carl Jung. And yeah, it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about it. I invite the creative and artistic minds of the world to join me in this endeavor of making the world a better place. Help me build a new and improved collective consciousness that will soar to greater heights than ever before.